Are you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Black Site Studio Terrain.
Hey guys, Gaz here from the SitRep podcast crew. Hope everybody's well out there. Welcome back to another View and Brew with Gaz. Glad to see... Scoreback's already in. Welcome. So yeah, we're into... Well, not even halfway yet, so we're still ticking through my sort of... these guys. So the Spectre miniatures, North African Militia forces. I am looking forward to giving this guy a go. So I've gone with quite an easy one tonight because I'm going to try and break my 2-hour stint, which seems to be the average sort of time. So we've picked a guy that's got fairly plain when it comes to clothes. The last guy we did, he had jacket, top, jeans, tears in his jeans. We've put him some Adidas shoes on and everything. So this guy's a bit more friendly for me today. So looking at this guy, we've got what looks like, these are like combat high boots. They've got this sort of shape coming off them that suggests like leather, where the laces would be threaded through. I know we're risking it. Loves a well-laced boot. Evening, Steve. How's it going, dude? Missed you at work today. Somebody was ill. Not me. For the trousers, we're going to keep it fairly simple. I've picked out my colour palette already. I'm going to have sort of a dark brown trouser. Coming up to the top, the shirt area. Yeah, good question. The cap itself, we're going with a Space Wolf Grey contrast. And then, as you've seen, we'll do the skin, the weapon system as normal. Not sure how I'm going to attack the shades yet. It'll be interesting to see how we come along with that. But yeah, another nice mini. I did notice towards the end that it's got this little sort of step in the top. So we'll do some sort of, I think, a colour change there. It's going to be an interesting one. In fact, I think we'll go with a green top. Green top, brown trousers for this guy. So we're kind of reversing some of the colours we've done before. I don't think I've used a dark brown yet. So we'll give that a go. Yeah, so there'll be a couple of colours I've not used before here, and we'll see how it all pans out. I'm not sure. So looking at the weapon system, it's definitely different to what we've had before. It's much longer in the front section. He's got a dual mag set up on it as well. So this is going to be, it's going to be a bit interesting. So I'm just going to have a glance at the camera. Seems to be picking up all right. You guys can see. Hopefully you can hear. I'm just going to zoom in just a touch because we're a little far out. I've been working on a mate's model that's slightly bigger than this, so it tends to make me work a bit further. So let's just adjust the focus, make sure that's all good, which it is. And let's just check the zoom, just bring her in just a smidge more. Yeah, that's a bit better, I think. I don't want to do too much because you've seen me. I struggle to keep on camera as it is. So if I zoom in too much, you'll never see anything. Sweet. Well, I've got the small brush, but that's no good. So that one's out of the way. We're going to be starting with the medium. So medium layer. Yeah, these are GW stuff, or Citadel, should I say. But we'll give it a go. So I was thinking today, what was I watching the other night? It's a good start, isn't it? You can't even remember what you were about to talk about. I was watching 12 Strong. It's just come on Netflix. So Space Wolf Grey, I'm going to go with a cap. We'll just start off nice and easy. I don't think I've not used this one before, so this is going to be a pot that's being opened for the first time. I think it was like Griffin Charger Blue or something I used last time, which was like a light grey. So it'll be interesting to see how this one sits. It's got a nice pigment to it. Haven't they all? Yeah, 12 Strong. So I don't know if you guys have seen it. Obviously, we're trying to keep the topic on modern. 12 Strong is about sort of the the First American Forces, I think, and bear with me because I'm doing what Jim hates. Jim, I know you're turning over somewhere and distraught at the fact I'm about to talk about a film, history from a film. 12 Strong seems to be about some of the first troops that were on the ground post the unfortunate 9/11 disaster, and it's an interesting take in that at the end of the day they end up in almost like a cavalry situation against modern weaponry, and understandably in Afghan the terrain can be such, and it seemed to be in that particular area, in that province, that the cavalry was probably more mobile, cover ground faster, so to speak, than a lot of the armoured units that would have been out there. See, I've got way too much on this, so I'm just going to pull a lot of this off. And it did have me thinking. I mean, you get the glorious charge and such, which, you know, sometimes you don't know how to take these things, because cavalry charging sort of fortified or prepared positions in the First World War, yes, sometimes they made it. No, not every time. And in recognition of the fighting done by said soldiers, there's a memorial at the 9/11 site of a guy on a horse, which it shows at the end of the film. There's part of the sort of the screen out where it takes you through some more information about what happened then and what happened after. Let's make sure. Yeah, this really isn't sitting as nice as I wanted it to on the cap. So what I'm going to do is, nobody wants a big dirty grey spot on the top. Just going to pull all that off. Keep it around the edges. Spin that. We're in seasick mode already, as I like to call it when I keep moving stuff around and you guys struggle. You know when somebody moves something, scrolls the screen, and you're trying to read it and it just doesn't work for you? It's one of them moments. So yeah, that's not sitting well on there. So this one looks like it might be better for larger surface areas. So that bad boy is going back on the shelf. I'm going to let that dry. In fact, let's not let it dry, because we can do a bit of a repair work straight away. So wet the brush. It's going to pull a lot of this back off, so it's less work for me to tidy it up, as in repaint it and start again. This is the first time I've actually started the model, or one of these models, and then decided nope, need to go backwards. So cool. Well, not cool actually, quite poor. Acalian green. So this is what I'm thinking for the top. I can't remember what it looks like. I think it's almost a bluey green. I did my usual before this. I grabbed the heads and had a look. Although obviously how it's sat on my head for the cap has put me off it already. It's a good start, eh? So I'm just going to put a bit of this on the palette so I've got something to move around. I'm going to jump in on the top. Yes, that's a nice colour. Cavalry in modern is something that's, well, when you just think of the concept, it's outdated, but there must be lots of places that still use it, and maybe not necessarily to engage because of the larger target and the risk of the risk of injury and being sighted and heard, etc., is very high. But for transitioning around in certain topography, certain war zones, certain parts of the world, you know, it's probably not a bad idea. Same as sort of camels for the desert, you know. So I was thinking about that today, about sort of what areas of the world would benefit more from having, because not every military force has got that sort of unlimited pocketbook of money. The checkbook's out. What forces of the world use, or still use, cavalry to... And when I say cavalry, I'm using the term loosely. Horse-mounted, camel-mounted, hell, llama-mounted if it'll carry you and not spit in your face too much. Whatever works, really. You can imagine that small groups, units behind enemy lines, will often use these types of modes of transport. One, to stay off the sort of the radar a bit more, because they can travel areas that are not... So let me get in this section here. Travel areas that you couldn't really procure certain assets such as vehicles without standing out even more. And the guys that are already on the ground, the guys that sort of do the agent handling or set up the rendezvous, etc., they'll be able to get hold of those modes of transport a lot easier if that's a commonplace thing in that country. It means that I was thinking about the games we play, that some of the SF stuff, I know Ralph, he's done some really cool special forces stuff. I think it's for Spectre, and some other game systems as well, possibly Sanguine, because I know he loves that. And I think he's got an SAS group. So having rules for those types of transport, support, whatever you want to call them, is probably pretty critical. So a lot of rule sets cater to the various forms of infantry and how then people move over ground. But I was wondering if you guys know as well, if there's many that actually cater to the other aspects that you could bring to the game, such as these modes of transport, and how does it all work? It's definitely something to comment in if you get the chance or are interested in it as well. Just doing a quick tidy up here and there. Gonna get underneath his arms. This one's really going to be an interesting one when it comes to do the highlight. Just rub that excess water off. So I had water running down the barrel of the brush then, so I just dragged it off my excuse me. Excuse me. Dragged it off on my thumb before it ended up running into my paint, and then, as usual, ruining the model. Work was crap today, so I'm glad to be sat at a table tonight painting. I don't know if you've checked out the Facebook page, but man, Marty's been busy. If you have, fair play. He's done loads of models, and he's currently working on a technical, which is going to be so cool. I think it's great to have those sorts of extra assets, the really heavy guns, so to speak, for the level of game we'll be playing. Kicking around potentially the route, depending how the transit game, which will at least start as a hex encounter, and definitely when it comes to the assault, it's probably not even the taking over of the grounds in the, let's get this bit, the compound, which would be the one with the ambassador in. Because we know 17 Feb, the sort of security forces, the local security forces, had apparently some technicals in there. So what to do with, so I've got his arm here, so we'll thicken that up a bit. Definitely going to be tidying this up with a second colour. So I'm trying to get some shape. I'm just going to put a little line down the chest here. That'll scoot out to the side. I'm just trying to give some shape to sort of the chest area without it being too much. I said, hope, pray. So I'm hoping you guys can hear me. If Steve or Skullcat, you could just give me a quick message to say that actually sound is working, or a thumbs up, or a wink, or a slap on the back of the head. That'd be much appreciated. I always do a quick sort of dry recording first, in an effort to make sure I'm not going to screw it up. But you never know. You never know. I was really messy then, wasn't I? So I always try and be a little bit neat, but that's just pathetic. The good thing is it's on the skin, and I'll be using a base colour for that to start with. So yeah, we've got some colour on him. We'll see how that goes. I do like that colour. What's it called? Italian green. I think that one's definitely one that could do with a bit of thinning before application. It's definitely got. It's very punchy. Cheers, buddy. Much appreciated. All is working. It's always a good sign. Otherwise, I'd have been prattling on to myself for a good few minutes, 10 or so. Won't be the first time. Steve can account to that. Won't be the last time. I imagine both of you will be able to account to that in future times. So next, I'm gonna. In fact, before I do that, I'm just going to quickly tidy up that cap. For that, rather than respraying the original, I'm just going to grab some white scar, chuck it on the palette, and all I'm looking to do is just thin it down and get a layer on to start working that back to its original colour, so it doesn't look like total crap when I go back over it. One of the joys is these lamps that I've got set up are practically heating the model up on a on a really quick ratio to the paint that I put on. So I should be able to get this on, and it should dry, and then chuck another one on. I think it should be good then, or at least close enough to good. Good enough for government work, as they say. But I'm kind of a little behind this week. I was pretty busy this weekend, struggling to get around everything and everyone. So I didn't have my usual sort of downtime. And it's meant that I'm a little all over the place when it comes to work and home. I got all the essentials done, but you know, stuff just bugs you. And I'm sort of catching up in the week as well. So tonight coming on was, yes, it was planned. Yes, work wasn't great, but managed to get it up and running on time, which I'm happy with. Hopefully we get this guy done tonight, and I'll crack on with me chores. It's a northern accent from England, sorry. I used to be a northerner. I've started to feel the cold recently after 20 years in the south of England, so therefore I may actually now be somebody from the Midlands. It's disgusting, I know. You can't get proper gravy. You get KFC for proper gravy, you know there's something wrong. Cool, so that's got a layer on. I'm just going to test this. This is a Pocket 30 White. I think we've used it before. I want to say we have, but I'm not 100%. I'm going to stick with a small brush for this, because I'm just going to line the shirt. It says line the shirt. I actually painted that bit when I probably shouldn't have. Do I leave it then? You know what? It'd be foolish to do that, so we'll keep that. We'll try it on the cap and see how it turns out, to get a pale cap on him. With having a dark top and probably dark bottoms, I might need to go with a dark cap. All my planning's gone right out the window today, hasn't it? So, contrast wildwood. This one, again, not used before on a miniature. So, looking forward to seeing how this lays down. The coin on the base. So, my mum lives in Turkey. She retired out there. So, it's a Turkish coin. It's a 1 lira. and they have Crush, which is their version of the smaller denomination. I really like it. It's got like a separate center, and it's textured. So I super glue these bad boys down so that they don't take nosedives on set. On set, it's like it's a film studio. More like sat at my table in my bedroom. And it means with them having texture on them, I can just use a craft knife just to ease them off. The glue breaks away nice and easily, and then I just chip the glue off the bottom, and I'm good to go and stick another one on. Obviously these ones are a bit awkward base size they're kind of, I don't know if they come out the press like that, as in once they're made they come out looking like that. This is unusual brown, it really thins out. And so you get all these different shapes and sizes on the Spectre models in relation to their footprint, and it's much easier, rather than super gluing it to anything else such as plastic, or plastic gluing it down, or this allows me to fit it into the holder very easily and keep reusing them. And at the same time, it's a nice talking point. So cheers for the question. I'll take any interaction I can. G always wanted me to. She's like, guys, you need to get 2 screens. So okay. So my version of 2 screens is a Kindle Fire with Twitch going to my right. I glance at to see if there's any messages come through. Unfortunately, I don't know if I can see anything that comes through on other platforms. That's something I still need to look into, to be honest. I want to say I can, but I'm not 100%. I just check that. Cool. Yeah, that's good. Now, this one's drying really slim. Slim? Thin. Same thing, but one's body type and one's on trousers. So I'm just going to do a second move around of it. It's really weird. It's really strong pigment wise, and then on all the high spots it really does pull away, almost like its viscosity is different to a lot of the other ones. So this guy's going to be quite a muted one in comparison to the others. I'm hoping it helps the gun sort of show. If I can get the colours right on it, the white, you know, the method I use, the Templar black. I've got my Mechanicum grey this time, so I don't spend 15 minutes looking for it like last time. Yeah, I've got it. That's one of the moments where, did I think I needed to get it and got it? Or did I actually get it? I got it. I can see it. It's good. It's good, good, good. All is good. All is good in the world of painting with gas. So, yeah, that's really sat on quite heavy. It's an interesting one, that. I'm always wary of pulling it to, you know, once it starts to dry and stuff, it can really streak badly. So I'm just going to move it around now while it's still pliable a bit. See if I can just shape it a bit better. It says belly on camera. Does not taste very nice, I'll tell you that much. So I've just added just a touch of water to my brush. Now I'm just going to run it around some of the top edges and try and pull away just some of the painting areas before it fully dries out. Some areas it's already started to, which is fine. Just got to be wary of where I pull and push it to now because of that. Yeah, it's started to dry. Cool. So I've got a nice dark base to come from. No, yeah, YouTube messages not. I'm a bit gutted about that because I know people may be on there as well, and I only have so many screens and running power. I definitely need to speak to my team. I'm not as switched on with this as the rest of the team members are. And I think there is definitely something I can set up that will allow me to access all chats. I think I'm just set up for Twitch at the minute. So I apologise. If you're watching on the other platforms, I will again speak to G this week and get that sorted. Our problem is there's been a few messages over the times we've been doing this where it's gone on another platform and I've not actually seen it. So I'm just putting more white on the palette. So basically what we did before. Just grab some white, thinned it out. Wow, cheers dude. That's a good sign. So fewest technical issues. Well, you've said it now. So in about 3 minutes and 28 seconds when the power cuts out and this thing goes dark. There's a massive flash and you'll hear me talking about the smell of burnt flesh. You know that Karma's come in there and give me a right good slap. The setup's really easy. I say it's easy. Once I got it all and understood what I needed to get, I really like the camera. I use the camera for chatting with people as well, because the camera has come out to be a real boon. For less than £100 and the imagery I get from it, I'm so chuffed with it. And that was on the advice of G to get this brand, and then I just went with a slightly different model than I can't even speak. Then she suggested. Because there was just one that was a slightly later model that picked up in darker rooms, because it's all about the dark room. Yeah, Logitech 920 is what G suggested, and I ended up with the 922. Is it I want to say a CZ or a CX? And that's mainly because of, like I say, most of the time I'm shooting under 2 lamps here. Just sort of 20 quid lamps from your local hardware store. One either side, white light bulbs, 40 watt. It gives me plenty of light here, but it gives me still a lot of shadow, so it doesn't white it out. Yeah, I think it is just the newer model. It did say a couple of little bits that could help. But not having had the older model, I've got no point of reference really. But either way, it was only 10 quid difference, I think. 10, 12 quid a difference on Amazon. Figured why not. Did I get the boom arm? I can't remember if I got the boom. I didn't get the boom arm with it. That was a separate purchase as well. So I've got one of them sort of mic boom arms to allow me to manipulate it and move it around. Yeah, I found that out when I was looking online, that they seem to, like you say, they do seem to be one of the workhorses. So I'm just going to chuck some Monfang Brown on the palette. We're going to do the gun base colour of the gun stock. But it's amazing that there's, especially when it comes to miniature painting, there's only a few guys that have actually talked about their setups. So that information and trying to find that was a bit of a pain. You're hearing a lot of erms tonight. I seem to be erming a lot. It's definitely been a long day. The top end guys are on setups that cost like $4,000. It's that's never going to happen. I think that too much. And so you end up sort of looking around and going, well, actually, what do I need? I mean, those guys have microphones hooked in so you got clarity of sound. I'll tell you one thing, my camera's close enough for it to be a microphone. If I cough wrong, I might swallow it, so you might get a tonsil view at some point this evening. It's more than enough for what I need. Hopefully, like I say, you guys can see well enough. I can zoom in more, but that'll just mean I often go out of shot more. I do post pictures up sort of the next day or so on the Just get in here a sec. On the Facebook page, I'll just do a front and a sort of an angle to rear shot to give you an idea of how it actually turned out in the end. I do use a light box for that. That's something I bought not so long ago. I've chucked in just a piece of cut down gaming mat. It's got some cobbles and some things on it, and it's just what I really like about it actually is I bought one, paid a little more for one that I could flat pack, so I can actually take it with me to places. When I move house and stuff, I'm not going to have to worry about not crushing the massive box of air, and instead I can just fold it down and take it with me. Should be nice and easy, he says. Let's get in. So just making sure we've got the stock all the way to the body, which we have. Just some work on the underside here to do. And it comes up to the forearm. Yeah, I've missed a bit. It's weird how you have to, I think it's called the parallax effect. Steve will correct me on it because it's a work term for us if I'm wrong. And it's to do with, sometimes you look at something at an angle, and you won't see it right because of an angle, which sounds stupid, so let me clarify that a bit better. If you were looking at an oil level on something, and you don't have your head at the right position, then it may look like it's full when actually it's not. God, that's a work thing. Tell you one thing I'm seeing though, this brown might be what we highlight that brown with, because it's on the palette, so I don't need to faff around. If I thin it right down as well, so it's sacrificial, I can always go back over it and get a gradual view of if I like it or not. I'm really struggling to see if this has, I think it has a wooden stock there, I think it just finishes here. Sometimes when you've got that base colour on, it's difficult to pick out the lines. And I could have gone over it in black. But, hey Real Tonka, how's it going? Hope you're well. Thanks for coming on board. Cheers for posting. Always nice to have a couple of people in. It's, yeah, it's coming along. So we're getting towards having most of the base colours down. What do you guys think for the cap? I mean, we've got dark colours here, and I feel, looking at how light the white is, the white does not look right. I think we're going to have to darken that down. So what sort of colours are you guys thinking? I'll open it up to those that have made the joyous effort of helping me not lose my mind during the stream. Well, I've got a bit of a shaky hand right now. Must be time for a slurp. So, quick drink. The beverage of choice today is a full fat Coke. Normally it's a diet. If it was a brew like what Gianna and I think Gianna and Marty tend to, well, they go for whiskey, I suppose, and then suddenly onto shot comes Marty's brew as well. So maybe that's why they have technical issues. Working drunk. Here at Zero Podcast, we do not condone working drunk. Looking for a demonstration of why not. Get shaky hands. No, I'm not drunk today. I was drunk on Saturday. In fact, Steve can attest to I was drunk on Saturday, because he's one of the bad people that made me do it. Cool. So the cap has got some shadowing on, a little bit of blue to it. Let me just put that into shot so you can see. So it's almost back to white, but there is some shading in it, which is quite funny because I now know a good way of doing white stuff, because I was struggling with that on the last one and ended up using a cream colour. But actuality, using that grey, leaving it heavy in the right areas, has given me a nice off-white. So there's a quick lesson learned. So what to go for next? Got the boots, which are going to be black, the weapon system, which is going to be black, the shades, which are going to be black. Yeah, I can get under the shades quite easy, so I'm going to go with the blacks next before I do the base layer of the skin. You can see where the brush has really pulled away on the trouser. So I've got a nasty sweep there, but we're going to highlight that up, so should help hide that. Cool. So black, see, this is one of my favourite ones, to be honest. The contrast Templar black for doing weapons and such is really good. How about making it an OTT cap? Well, now you're asking. So for those of you who don't know, on Tabletop, are good buddies of mine, Gianna and Don's, and many other people around the world, including our friend on the chat. And yeah, it's you're asking there. You know what? When you've said it now, I can't even think. I've just realised I've got... No, I'll stick with this brush for this, actually. I was about to say I've got the wrong brush, but this is going to be quite detailed in areas. Did I get enough of the brown off? No, let's do a bit more on that. Let's get a bit more off the shoes first. Get them back up to sort of a lighter colour. So that would shine through. So if you look in there, you see the brown running down. That looks like he's crapped himself and had a liquid accident. That would show through. Maybe. I just wanted to be able to say that this poor bloke's, you know, his missus' cooking is not as good as it needs to be right now. Which is the last thing you need when you're on your way to go and sort of assault some walls and gates and, you know, basically run around, and it must be itchy if you've got that. Just because it's bugging me, I'm just going to white out that bit there. I have no valid reason for that at all, other than it's bugging me. It's got it on his hand there as well. Into the arm. OTT cap. What's on the front of the OTT? I know it's the OTT symbol. Can you imagine trying to do that there though? Look at it. I don't think my brush is small enough. Just put that in shot. Maybe. Crazy people. Cool, so I pulled a decent amount of black. Just gonna smash this on the magazine, the weapon system. Try and avoid the fingers. A little bit quiet. If you don't know me by now, I'm quiet when I concentrate. Sort of. You can always tell when I start talking, and I should be concentrating because you'll hear me swear when I screw it up. Helps if you have the paint on the side of the model that your paintbrush hand is on, Gareth. Thank you. So yeah, I like this. This sort of gives a, when you do the original colour, thin it out, move it around, it really settles well, gives you a nice sort of natural highlight, which is a real boon. Then we take Mechanicum Grey, Aviator Shades. How would you attack Aviator Shades? They're obviously shiny. They're mirror backs. There is mirror methods. Bear in mind as well, I have like 2 hours to paint the whole model-ish, because I've still not hit 2 hours yet. Mirror Shades. Maybe. Maybe. Let me have a think. Bloody Mirror Shades. I definitely think I'd be bringing them back up to white, and then maybe to... I might have an idea of how to do it. Maybe we'll have a go at that. I'll have a look at how difficult it is to get to the various areas, because I'm pretty sure I'm going to need to be doing some repairs at some point in that area if we do Mirror Shades. I'm bound to make it look bad initially, and then try and correct it. How to do Mirror Shades. Yeah, just give me 5 minutes to Google Mirror Shades. Mirror Shades on miniatures. You know what, I don't like the brown. We're going with a full black. I just, looking at it, I don't think it's got enough meat to have a wooden stock. And I much prefer the clean black look on this at that end and the contrast at the opposite. So we're going to repair, I say repair, we're just going to blitz over the stuff I've already done. Don't try again, try to not catch the hand too much. Let's make sure I've got the underside, which I haven't. Normally I find this at the end. For those of you that watch the others, when I do my... Oh, I turned it over. Oh, look, I've missed all that. Oh, like so. Look at the bottom of the trouser there. See that? That's not a paint chip. That's a lack of paint chip. It's because you lot keep making me talk. That's not true. I just like to waffle. Should hear me at work. One day I'll actually do work instead of just talk. That'll probably be the day they fire me. Right, that's in there. That's in there. So underside of the mags is not been done, which I knew. There's a little bit. Got to get in there, deep boy. It's like that moment in Dodgeball where he's cleaning the wheels. And then the other thing I'm trying to do is keep it on camera. Because it's pretty pointless if you can't see what I'm doing. Well, it's not, because you're probably just here to waffle. I'm just here to waffle anyway. Happy with that. So before I repair that brown, because it doesn't really matter at this stage, I'm just going to whack the black onto what looks like the boots. Just try and move it around and pull it into the right places. I'm trying to think about what to use to highlight the shirt. So I do like the contrast paints, and on some stuff you can pretty much leave them alone. Just do an edge highlight. And other stuff, depending on how they've sat, like on this where it's just pooled in certain places, I normally like to go back in with a bit of a layer coat of a colour that makes sense, he says. Something making sense that I've said is pretty epic, like, because that does not happen very often. I'm not sure. I've not seen Midway yet. Have any of you guys seen it? It's quite a recent film, and I'm not sure whether to invest or not. I'm thinking that it must have been good at the cinema if it's about obviously the Second World War ship engagements, but I always worry about. I have a real problem with too much CGI when it looks like CGI. You've not seen Midway? Oh, I've not seen 1917 either. That's another one that needs to cross my my eyes at some point soon. World War One's very different in how to attack it, I suppose. Do I do the? You know, I'm going to do the shades black to start with, if nothing else. Yeah, because World War One is such a different fight than most of the other moderns. It is very much more like the historical stuff, I would say, though. Because when you think of a lot of the historical fights with muskets and early rifles and such, or at least muskets with rifle barrels, you do think of a standing fight. Oh, so there's a few of us not actually seen them. Ah, I'm not alone. At least that's a good thing. Not alone in the chat, and I'm not alone in that there's films out there that I probably want to see, should have seen, and still haven't yet. They're quite recent. How do you guys get on with too much CGI and stuff? I've always liked people in the shot rather than, wow, he looks really weird with them done like that, doesn't he? It's because I've not got anything holding his nose yet. It looks like he's got one on either side and nothing connecting him. It's kind of like my ears. I've got one either side and nothing connects them. Well, in between them. Yeah. This is where he gets a new nose ring in black, if I'm not careful. Oh, Get the breathing under control. Take the shot. Nice, regular. Nice and regular. I think this guy could easily be a merc. He's got a nice layout. You know, sort of military boots, civvies, good weapon system for that sort of area, what you'd be able to pick up locally. Baseball cap, some decent looking shades. Arnie would have nicked him off him if there'd have been Terminator 17. Agreed, yeah. Practical stuff over CGI. I think, which one? Excuse me a second. Excuse me. I think Saving Private Ryan and such like that, they had that sort of right mix where you could see both. Fury, again, had the right mix. Where it needed to be physical, it was. And they sort of got away with where it wasn't. What was the one I saw? I think it's called, is it American Assassin or something? It's a recent one. It's more of a CIA thing, from what I remember. But that had a terrible, terrible ship scene at the end. That just made me cringe. Absolutely cringe. Not happy with it at all. It spoiled the film for me, whereas the rest of it was fine. In fact, it had Michael Keaton in it. They just took it too far. It's as simple as that. They didn't have the budget, and it didn't look as good. It felt like you were watching, you know, what was it, Sharknado? So I've still not decided fully on the cap yet, so we're going to chuck some Bugman's Glow down as the base colour for the skin. This is what I've been using throughout. Again, if you've been watching any of the other videos, any of the characters we've done, you see we use this as a start point, and then we do vary the shade, so I never have a formula. I just chuck it all together and then lighten it on some guys and leave it dark on others. It's an unusual area that we're featuring this in, being sort of Benghazi and Libya. The multitude of nationalities close by with different skin pigments makes it really nice to paint, because you can kind of get away with almost anything, from Caucasian to a really deep dark skin tone of what you'd expect for sort of the more central and hotter African nations. And you're not going to be wrong, because yes, it could be locals, but the forces coming from around the country, knowing what they did about the compound that was there, could potentially have travelled from anywhere in those regions or further south. You know, commanders come up from various areas and where they're trained. I have to admit, right now, I really want to just pick the model up close to my face to paint it, because I'm in a tight area. I don't want to screw it up too badly. But because of the camera angle and somebody being dumb enough to paint on camera, I'm now getting a face full of, I'm just going to tilt this lamp down just a touch. So I'm getting one eyeball lit up with a 40 watt bulb. Gonna have a squint tomorrow when I go into work. So which war films would you say have aged well? When I say war films, we are talking sort of modern, so anything Second World War onwards. I did enjoy, what's one that slipped through the cracks and came up recently? I think it's called Anthropoid, based on the true story of a resistance cell that was, you know what, it's that long since I watched it and I really enjoyed it. I can't remember which country it is, which is disgusting when I brought it up on the feed. But the Germans are in an area and they're looking to target one of the highest commanders with the local resistance group, and it kind of goes a bit wrong and they end up sort of in a last stand scenario, but it invigorated the resistance there, and definitely worth a watch. Yeah, Black Hawk Down, that's a good shout. Black Hawk Down does still look good. In fact, Jim recently played a scenario on his Hex Encounter, and it's on the video feeds, with a downed helicopter, using it as a bit of a test bed for some of the rules for the upcoming game. That's definitely worth a watch. It's amazing what Jim does when he builds these boards, because when you go in and you watch these hex counters that he's done, he's actually built all the scenery in them, and he's built the sort of the icons and the markers that represent friendly and enemy forces as well. He's certainly got a skill set that's admirable. But yeah, Black Hawk Down's a great one. Hollywood Tiger. Ah, right. It's like, well, for a second there, I thought you meant there was a film called Hollywood Tiger, which would have been a real interesting title to put on a film. The Hollywood Tiger. Yes, I know what you mean. Well, you know, you can only get so far in a film without needing a Hollywood Tiger, eh? I think Saving Private Ryan was always very famous for its opening scenes, wasn't it? Whereas stuff like Band of Brothers seemed to have a better carry through all of it, as in it was consistently. I always felt Pacific was underrated. There was a mental aspect that came into the Pacific of the trauma and the shell shock and the sort of the alienness of the landscape to the soldiers that started to send them a bit loopy. Wow, that arm took a really long time. I did feel it didn't get the fair shake by a lot of people. Some people don't even last as long as when they actually get on the ground after the initial engagement and pushing country, and some of the crazy stuff that they saw and came across. In fact, another one like that was The Thin Red Line. I don't know if you guys have seen that one. So no, you've not watched Pacific. Yeah, I mean, it's not Saving Private Ryan. No, Saving Private Ryan. It's not Band of Brothers. It's a very different take on a very different theatre. Band of Brothers wouldn't have worked. I mean, at the end of the day, that's a true story, and that's a big part of that. In that you can associate so well with the characters because they were generated from real people. I think that's why even based on true stories are generally more appealing. That, and we all want the little guy to win. Thin Red Line had another element very similar to Pacific. Strangely enough, a similar theatre because it was pushing up to sort of Iwo Jima and all that. It's got the aspect of a soldier to it that's, out on the ground trying to find his feet. The fact that not every soldier just gets up and goes like a hero. Some of them you've got to bully into it. Some of them had to be, some of them were just not physically able to go and ended up being charged and such for it. Excuse me. Sorry about the coughs. I do lean away when they sort of come. Oh, in fact, I'll get a quick swig of drink. It's probably dry mouth. Bisto. Well, actually, it's not Bisto, but I'll probably still drink it. Yeah, Pacific is never going to grab you the way Band of Brothers did. And to be honest, I think a big part of it is if you've watched those type of films as a kid with your parents, growing up, etc., still watch them now. It's such a comfortable portrayal that you've seen in so many other films that it's going to be very difficult to better or beat. Pacific is just different. Yeah, Fury. Now, you say about not working in a platoon together. One of the things that I'm very conscious of is nothing's ever where you think it was in history. As in, yeah, it started out with this many vehicles and it had these. But by the time it gets to the fight and stuff starts to break down, the logistics isn't there, and a lot of the time you'll just chuck together what you can for safety. And there's, what do they call them? So we have gaming players. I could say that. So essentially, a Riskinite loves his history, and he's very historical accurate in what he does and portrays. and he gets as much information from as many legitimate sources as possible to create any aspect of his games, be it the terrain, the forces, the weaponry, the backstories. And I think whether he... this is going to be interesting. That's what they call, I would say, is it a rivet counter? When it comes to historical gaming, because they want to be as accurate as possible. But, you know, we're all very wary of the information released is not always all the facts. A great indication of that is the upcoming 13 hours game. It's 13 days and 13 hours. It really screws my melon that it's that way around. 13 hours in 13 days is how my brain works it. How it's posted is 13 days equals 13 hours, which makes sense. But it's not an after-action report. It's the tanks in Fury would not have been in the same division to simplify logistics. I was thinking of, so, you know, once you've got damaged vehicles and such, you'll put out whatever you've got as a mixed force, even if they're not meant to be together sometimes. Do you think that's true? It's like infantry. Infantry units can sometimes blend together to cover ground, moving between dangerous areas from fob to fob, mob to mob, that are not in part of the same division or such, but they're moving. We've got guys injured. They need to fill up the space, and there's sort of protection in numbers and variety. Supporting the vehicles is obviously well, that's actually what I do as part of the REMI. So I understand what's being said, and I understand that sometimes what's on paper is not always what's in reality. Yeah, Fury, the fight at the end with the Panzer, the Panzerschreck, Panzerfaust. Yeah, I was a bit. Siege of Jadotville is very good. That's the Irish army, isn't it, in Africa? I really enjoyed that. For ages, I kept thinking it was the French Foreign Legion. It's actually, I think, back on Netflix, or on Netflix. And that's, I really enjoy that film. Again, it's got a good level of realism to it if you're in the military and you understand what's going on, as in, you've got an appreciation of what's going on. Agree with the way the Sherman tanks were sent out, though. About sharing parts. I might have repaired an aircraft by putting speed tape on, which is a big silver patch of tape, and sent it back out in the past. So yeah, sometimes battlefield repairs are whatever you can get hold of. At the end of the day, the guys on the ground don't care when it's in the sky, giving them top cover. The end fight of Fury was, yeah. And even if it was any other way, the German forces, especially the ones, I think was it if I remember right, was it an SS troop that they ran across, were, you know, pretty well trained, motivated individuals with very little tolerance for failure, where failure often meant the same as if you'd have, you know, you might as well have stayed on the battlefield and died. Right, just see, I've been doing a lot of the guys without hair, and I feel it's about time we give some guys some hair. So it's because they all look bald. It's really weird. I say look bald, as in the model doesn't have much in the way of shape to give them hair. Wow, this guy looks really sunburnt with these shades as a contrast. Definitely gonna have to bring that up a bit. You don't even remember. I do. Don't get me wrong, 12 strong we've talked about tonight. Fury's dropped in. We've had Blackheart down. These are all entertaining, aren't they? At the end of the day, that's what it is. That's what we get out of it. Whether it's based on a true story, whether it's fictional, whether it's a good or bad film, there's normally a few moments that you'll take from films, you know, that sort of stick with you and you think, you know what, I'd have probably watched it just for that bit because that was quite funny, or that was really cool, or that's kind of what I try and look at when I watch films. Try and see if there was a moment in it that validates the waste of my life if it's a bad one. I just need one. And if not, I'd never tell anybody about them because I hope they just sort of disappear into the ether. Modern's a tough one to do. Tactics are different. Risks versus rewards is much higher. The hero moments are more difficult to manipulate simply due to the fact that in reality they'd have died, etc. And everybody's aware of it. You know what? I'm going to keep that cat white. I'm probably going to toughen up some of the lines, but what do you guys think? I'm going to keep that cat white. After all that. Pearl Harbor. There's a question. Cookie. Cuba Gooding Jr. at his finest. Everybody seemed to have a hate-hate relationship with that. And it had the cast. Lots of big names from that period and really good supporting. But seemed to fall over. If we're thinking about the same one. Yes, it did have a shoehorned in love story. It's but that can easily be forgiven just because it was Kate Beckinsale. That validates any love story, in my opinion. She is a very lovely looking lady. And if you're watching, Kate, I'm currently single and available. And if I wasn't, I would have been anyway. You'll never know. Oh, you see, I've got very pretty hands, and I've not even got that, so I'm not going to be doing right well, am I? Cool. So the pigments look really nice up here. I've kept it quite thin and pulled it around a bit, but yeah, it's got a nice coating on it for the skin. What's really bugging me is I can see a white dot by his finger here, and I just can't quite. I keep trying to get it, and then I look away, and it's still there. Careful around the neckline. I'll try to be, should I say. The only thing with the base colours are they do sit over everything else really well, so you have to be a bit more, well, a bit less ham-fisted, should I say, in the areas where you're trying to keep it tidy, because it's much more difficult to repair. Hunter Killer. Yeah, in fact there is Hunt for Red October has been done as a war game by, I can't even think of who they're called now. Something Horse Studios. Let me think about it a sec. They did the remake. Oh, they made a tabletop. Oh, balls. First balls of the night. Although that made it 3. As I slipped onto the top talking. Let's quickly try and get rid of that. I thought I was doing so well, I wasn't even thinking about it. So we've not had any. Dark Horse? No. There's definitely a gaming group that have done Hunt for Red October. See, I like Hunt for Red October. I thought that one was alright, Hunter Killer. River Horse. Yay! Thank you for coming. See, I just need help all the time. Now I just need a maid at the house to tidy around and make me brews while I paint. Because I'm more of a cup of tea guy, but it's a bit difficult to go and make a brew in the middle of these. Don't get me wrong, I will make up for it after. Oh, in fact, so Gianna is a massive coffee person. Marty, massive coffee person. Chris, the new Chris, not sure how big a coffee person is, but is in some form a coffee person. I've already confirmed this with Marty. Dawn, a massive Diet Pepsi person that also drinks coffee. Now, key point about me saying all that, they are mad about good, strong coffee. Dudders, Steve knows Dudders at work, is mad about good, strong coffee. So I'm going to package up a set a British coffee that's a company that's been set up by a veteran, UK veteran. I know the guys in America, they drink, I can't remember the name of the brand, but that's by US veterans. Almost like you're in some form of coffee cult. Well, you say that. I probably wouldn't qualify for the cult based on the fact I don't drink any coffee, but I do have a fair bit of caffeine in the form of tea. Maybe my volume of tea makes up for the fact I don't drink as many cups of coffee, but over drinking tea, I consume the same amount of caffeine. It would explain why my bladder seems so small and I need to wee a lot. I'm going to send a bag of the good stuff to the USA for the 4th of July, and they can have a coffee independence war where they basically sit on two sides of the table, line up the coffees, and have to decide, hopefully, I say without any prejudice, but that's pretty much going to be pretty difficult. We might have to label stuff and find out who does better coffee. But it'd be a bit of a giggle. Hopefully they might film it as well. Right. Done. Right, I'm going to tidy up that brown because that's really annoying. Just on the bottom of the trousers. Just a quick dab here and there, and that'll be back to normal. Or less annoying even. Or more annoying if I screw it up because it'll go onto the shoes. Shoes, boots. Wow, we're doing really well for terminology today. What colour hair? See, it's so light there, he looks like he's Caucasian with a tan if I do it blonde or something. So I think, should I go with black or brown? I want to go with black. I imagine black fits the demographic. Hey, Jim, I've been talking lots about you, sir. You'll have to rewind to see that. We've been talking about films, so you're gonna, yeah, exactly. We're talking about historically accurate films, your favourite subject. We've had Black Hawk Down, we've had Saving Private Ryan, we've had Band of Brothers. Yeah, you're going to be well pleased with this episode. Or B. So what to do next? What I might do is just do that shadowing that we talked about up at the top on that cap. But what to do it with? I think I'm just going to go with shade. So rather than, because I know the pigment strength on yours is really high, I'm going to go with a shade and I'm going to water it down a crap load to keep it thin so I can move it around. Talking that trash. Oh, there's faces. See, Jim comes in and we get like 16 extra messages straight away. Next time we'll be posting the shot glass comment and we'll be drinking shots shortly. No, I've been talking about what we like in the modern war films and which ones are actually worth a watch and which ones aren't. And yes, I know, I'm sorry. I have to fill the time with something. I could talk about painting the model, but nobody really cares about that. And I talk about 13 days each time, so 13 days equals 13 hours. Here at Globo Gym, we're better than you, and we know it. Don't know where that came from. You'll get random stuff as well. Right, I need to hold this right if I'm doing this line correctly. So I'm just trying to put some shade on the peak, so at the rear of the peak of the cap to make it stand out just a little bit. I think what I'm going to do is keep this going and build it up in various areas of this cap. So I like the colour, it's just sitting nice. The white is a little too. So we're going to feather it around the edge to darken down the lowest point. If that makes sense. And you can see I'm not doing anything special here other than little lines from top to bottom. Same at the back here. Cool. Yeah. And then I'm going to pick up some more paint. Talk too much. Wow. I think this is the most posts I've ever had in the chat after 2 hours already because of Jim. Cheers, buddy. It's coming along nicely. So pretty much now I can ignore the chat because Jim will keep you all entertained. I'll just carry on painting models. Or trying. So I'm going to carry that feather in a little bit because I don't want a straight line across the front as much as sort of a little bit of a shadow. I'm going to do it in the opposite direction. Yep, you'll get seasick. And the idea of this is just to break up the straight line a bit. And when I've screwed it up, we've already seen I can paint it white. I don't know how we do for time. What time is it? Oh, we're over an hour. That's gone pretty quick. So now I'm just going to really thin down what I've got on the palette again and use it as a top highlight, but it'll be a lot thinner, he says. See, there is a lot of tank films out there that are sort of Eastern European and stuff. They seem to be becoming more popular. Oh, well, it's a good job that lid was on the shade, eh? Because it just took a nosedive into the carpet. Oh, he says falling out the chair trying to get it. Not the first time I've dropped something. Not the last time I've dropped something. Consistently. Cool. So it's getting a bit more blue. Thin it out again. I was playing with this shade yesterday for another model, doing some crease work after I came off camera, because you know when you get to a stage on a miniature where something's not working right, it's really annoying, and you take a break and then you come away and you think, you know what, I'm just going to stick it, keep going, because I'm not happy, I need to do more, I want to get that right, and I did that, and eventually I got it right. Problem was I forgot to turn the camera back on. So I didn't film it. So I'm going to have to talk through it next time I go on camera. Because it's completely different now to what it was then. Not completely, actually. That's a lie. So I'm just building up the shade a little bit. I'm going to leave quite a bit on top. But not so much that... So I don't want to blot out the white fully. I just want it to sort of come through. Let's change the angle. Because of the height of the model, it was pushing up and being out of focus. Apologies if it's been like that for a little while. Most of the time when I go back to do the angle work, it should have come back into shot. One thing I've found with having the sort of the webcam is the autofocus is great, but not great. It's also your worst enemy when it comes to doing miniature stuff because it's constantly shifting. Which is no good to man nor beast, so to speak. So you end up setting a height, setting a focus point, and then trying to work the model at that. So here, he's out of focus, but if I pulled him down to here, it'd be in focus. Essentially now I'm just committed to muddying up this cap from white and trying to get it looking a bit more natural and a bit darker, but without totally needing to start it again. Another good thing, it's shade, so you can just build it up layer after layer. You just have to let them start dry to see what actual colour you've got. It's going over the ears. Got to wash over the ears. So Jim has a lot of stuff. And you got all your rack stuff as well. Well, I imagine you've got lots of stuff when you look in your cabinet, dude. Jim does love his hobby. And we love Jim. We talk about your skill set when it came to the hex stuff you've been doing recently, dude. Oh, and also, was it Burma you did recently? It was very similar to Black Hawk Down with the aircraft down. A quick slurp. That's what she said. So there's a nice dark spot at the back. So I'm just pushing pigment into it. And that's sort of that area where you always get on the cap. Where you have the adjustable area, and then above it you have the hole. Just going to carry on building this up one more layer, I think, and then I'll be quite happy to leave the top side of that alone. Certainly looks nicely worn now. It's not just that pure white, because there's no way in that environment it'd be as white as that. Even kids in the UK that really want to keep their trainers white can't keep that sort of thing white for very long. Yeah, that's a nice, I think it's a nice contrast. It's getting around the ears, build that up a bit. It's nice and light up the top. I'm just going to do a bit more on this back quarter. Same for this one, and then pull the line again. Cool. Here I'm going to keep it simple. I'm just going to chuck back in a bit of the Black Templar contrast. Similar to Black Hawk Down. Yeah, didn't you do... you post a video the other day where you guys were working your way towards a downed aircraft, a downed helicopter for Hex game. I thought it was Burma, but I'm not 100%. Or am I thinking something else? So black. Wow, I thought I put some on the... I think I didn't actually put any on the brush then. I'm not 100%. But definitely the result was I didn't put enough on the brush, regardless. So, weird thing here. How far to go with it? Because this is a contrast, I want to thin it out so it has an opaqueness to it. Once I've got it in the initial areas correctly, he says. I'm just going to dab rather than, because I don't want a straight edge, I want an uneven one. So instead of pulling the brush across, I'm just going to dab the product into that area and let it settle abnormally as if it's a rough hairline. So instead of something really straight, it's really rough. But I don't want it looking stupid either. So I'm going to straighten it up just a little bit in a place. Sideys. Oh, I've got to have some sideys. I could give him some diggers like Marty. Marty looks what we'd call a farmer with a shotgun set of sideys on him. He's got some right diggers. It's the type of guy that looks like he hunts down his food, kills it, skins it, and that's all his family will eat. If I ain't killed it, I ain't eating it. We get those guys when you do like seer training. Come in there. They've always got one blade that you can see. They've always got a second blade that you can't see. They're armed in one way or another. Nobody likes uneven sideburns, do they? Let's get that. Okay, we've got the Elvis of... yeah, I think we've got some Elvish action going on there. We're happy with that. Oh, it was Black Hawk Down. See? I told you it was like Black Hawk Down. Don't get much more like than actually Black Hawk Down. Cool, so I'm happy with the cap. Got a nice sort of varied transition there. Darker on the brim, lighter at the top. There's some light spots on the brim. Got the centerpiece at the back. The hair's looking okay. Got some serious sidey action going on. A bit of unevenness. And he looks like he's chewing a golf ball and he's not very happy. So we're looking good. I think for the highlights now, rather than sort of haphazardly do the rest, I'm going to start at the shoes and come up. So for them, I'm just going to chuck on what I will do with the gun, but I'll just go a single layer. So a bit of Mechanicus Standard Dry. Dry? Grey? If I could read it, help. Cheers, Jim. Much appreciated. So, Jim, we talked earlier, some of the guys were posting up about which sort of war films of the modern sort of setting, I want to say modern from our perspective of modern, have sort of stood the test of time. Black Hawk Down was mentioned. What else was mentioned? Fury was mentioned a little bit. What else? I was talking about Anthropoid, but I couldn't remember the setting of the country. Which country was the where the resistance cells were fighting? Yeah, it's going to bug me that. I'll probably end up watching that again now because I've disappointed myself. Generally, my film knowledge is not too bad. Also looking for some females. Well, when you bang them over the head and drag them home, don't let the police find out again. Right, so in fact I'm going to thin this grey quite heavily. So I'm going to put an extra layer of water in because I want the black to hold most of the colour. I just want a light. Czechoslovakia, that was it. Reinhardt, yeah. I can remember Reinhardt, but I couldn't remember the country. I couldn't remember if it crossed the border or not. But I enjoyed that film because it's not the usual war story, if that makes sense. So I'm just doing some little bit of highlights here and there. We're just looking to bring up the boot, essentially, make it look like... So at the minute, the black, even with the slight highlight it's given it, hides the fact that it's sort of 3 leather panel sections coming together. So just by putting some thin layers on, it should break it up. We'll keep the black in the gaps and give it that boot feel. Everybody loves a booty. Sound's not cut out. I'm just concentrating. Feel free to speak amongst yourselves. Yeah, there is that. I imagine a lot of people don't even know his story. I wonder how many attempted assassination attempts there were, and against who in the Second World War. I bet that would be from the occupied countries rather than... We often look at allied nations that were not occupied attacking to kill, Hitler and a lot of the main guys. I wonder how many resistance cells and such had a crack at them over the time that they were occupied, because I think we miss a lot of the small stories of the guys in the worst possible conditions managing to find a way to kill or disrupt enemy forces. Not just Second World War, but across the board, really. Scary to say, a lot of those would have been considered terrorists once the occupying force had come in. It certainly has the same concept values in many ways. Even if it's for an Axis enemy, the term still fits from the opposite perspective. Let's make sure the soles are showing a bit. I think what I'm going to do with them is I'm going to keep them light as they are, bring them up, and then I'm probably just going to black wash them, bit of Nolan oil just to bring them back down after as well. Cool, so happy with that. So that's that initial bit on the boots. We're going to do the gun. We're going to bloody mirror shades. Somebody said mirror shades. We'll see what we can do about that. Let me just get the gun done and then we'll come back and have another mooch around it. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. So there's lots of attempts on Hitler and such, but other operations like the SOE, well, I'll do like the SOE. Some of the people there are amazing, especially as now that the records have come out, there is some absolutely epic people that were doing such a job. Where's his trigger finger? In enemy held territory. So at one point when the term went out from the UK, from the radio broadcast to say, Europe, time for Europe to burn. And they activated what was a lot of the SOS agents and those people that they'd recruited to start the sabotage as Allied forces moved in to various settings. There was one particular guy who's named in there was a recent BBC show, so one of the channels in the UK, covering the SOE, and often talking about some of the heroes of the Second World War, the unsung heroes that are now able to be identified. This particular individual had recruited over 3,000 and trained 3,000 resistance fighters across Germany occupied areas. So can you imagine the satisfaction when the call came for him individually, having recruited so many to take up the cause against the occupying enemy? It's just crazy cool. So just the usual grey highlight that we brought it up, just put it in perspective. So I do that as initial sort of lighting source for the top angles of the weapon. That gives me a point of reference to then go back over with the white. I'm going to do it on both sides. So we're going to do it along the top a little bit as well. So yeah, I'm just going to feather it out a bit. I use feather, I don't even know if that's the right word. I keep coming back to that. Some of the other videos. If it's not the right word, it means just dragging like so. Just building up a little line of lines going in and keeping it thin on the edge. That way it doesn't fully coat it, it's just breaks up a solid block of colour. Jim, what weapon system's that? Let me get that in shot. I understand it's an AK of some sort. I didn't go with a wooden stock on this one because I felt it looked like an old metal system. Oh, I'm just reading back now. There are many revisionists who like to equate. Okay, yeah. Don't know if you agree with that. That's fair, yeah. Oh, rifle would make more sense. It's definitely longer than what I'd expect. It's got a bit more. It's got a bit less meat on it and a bit more length. So a rifle would definitely fit the bill in relation to its visual specifications, its characteristics. Yeah, I think we're there for the gun. Shades. So I'm just going to put a bit more on the brush, a bit more water, mix up a new area of grey. So weirdly the cap's going to cover some of the shade. So rather than go up to the top, I'm just going to angle an edge. Now the problem with this is I can't do it opposite, I've got to do the same on both sides, if that makes sense. Because whichever angle the sun is at, it would cast the same sort of lines, say if it's in front of them. So that's just off white, off black. You can just about pick up the grey in there, look. Almost beginning to look like it's got a sheen. I think a smaller dot of white and we'll be there. Brown. Brown. So we've got the weapon system to just do the highlight of the butt and these trousers, so to speak. I'm going to leave the white for a sec. I'm going to chuck a bit more Mornfang brown on, which is what we use for the stock. I'm going to use that as a highlight. Oh, there's some links coming in from our history editor. Yeah, the magazine's weird. It's a double over clip, so he's got so the magazine's a reverse as well. So you've got the magazine that's actually fitted. Helps if I get it in shot, eh? So that top section just above my brush there is the natural magazine. The second one, this is what looks like a reverse magazine. So it's got one of the over-under, easy to flip around once you run out of juju. That's why enemy forces won't need to do magazine checks, Jim, in our game, because they're all carrying over under swaps. So we don't need rules for that. So I'm going to really thin down this brown so that I can use it to highlight the trousers without going over too much. Yeah, exactly. Nobody wants to track ammo. When you do your judgmental training and then you get you do your firing and you come back in and they go, right, so how many rounds did you fire? And you're like, I don't know, but it clicked empty, so 30. And what did you fire at? Well, I fired in that general direction. No, it's keeping track of rounds when firing rounds, even when you're not under the pressures, which I haven't been, of enemy forces being close, is definitely got to be a challenge. To then come back later in testimony. So I'm just doing a quick highlight of these and make a statement to the effect of exactly what you have done, thought you've done, might have done. It's got to be tough. It's got to really twist your melon. Especially if it's gone wrong in some way as well. So I'm just flaring around looking for natural high spots. And I'm not chucking a lot on. What I've done is really thin. I did go heavy with the pigment, as you can see. This should be coming back up now with the application of a layer. So I'm staying away from the center of the leg here as I come down. I'm sort of pulling out towards an edge, and I'm trying to catch there's almost a line of creases that are natural. Hopefully it's not a mode line, because I pride myself on my mode line cleaning, as Gianna and Dawn will attest to for me. And that way we get it's difficult to pick up, I think, with the camera. Oh, there we go. So we've got, so you can see some of the light spots. And they're a lot more blended and muted, and it's just by keeping a very, very thin layer when we do it. I'll see if I can show it better. So if we start the outside of the leg there, let me make sure I'm at the right focus length. There we go. So the outside of the leg there is very dark. And now this is where I completely screw it up because I've used that as a point of reference. So what I want to do is just build up some colour here and there. Natural light spots, high spots, to break up that monotone. On the qualification range, you track every shot. In the field exercises, especially FPF, you don't track beep. Afterwards, they ask, do you have any ammo left? The only correct answer is no. Like the highlights and pants, especially. Oh, cheers, dude. Yeah, they're coming together. So here, I'm going to bulk out the knee, because I feel that'll stick out a bit more. And then feather up at a diagonal towards the hip, without touching in at all. Looking at this, I've got a high point on the back of the leg in that area, over the top. So let's have a look at it now, see if you can. So now you've still got sort of the black spot that was the center, but you've got what is, there we go, you've got what is lighter spots. So by keeping it thin and just letting the brush do the work, you know, it really does help bring the highlights up. I'm going to do the inside of the leg a little bit at the bottom, because although the top will be covered by the groin and the body shape, excuse me, that was me repeating after my pop. At the bottom, I'm just going to thicken it up a little bit, because light will just be coming in there just a touch, I hope. Cool, so that's that leg done. So I'm going to switch to the other one. We obviously started at the back on that one anyway. And this principle works for anything. If you wanted them to really sharp, you could go over the highlighted areas in white first, and then bring it back up, I suppose. That would be pretty cool. Because that would really make it pop in comparison to the dark areas. That's kind of where the contrast does help you, because it leaves the white showing through to the point where when you do come to highlight, you can see where you need to do. Or not. Depending on sort of what you think you should and shouldn't do. I do enjoy these videos now, I really do. The first one I did, I was, well, for want of a better word, bricking it, so I was very nervous. I was worried about how it was going to go. Then got the first one out of the way, felt okay. Second one out of the way. Oh, Jim, I need to learn how to hook in chats from other platforms. So I only get Twitch, it seems, at the minute. It's been kindly pointed out to me that stuff like YouTube, I don't seem to see, the chat doesn't come up. So guys are messaging me or saying hello on YouTube initially, and I'm not seeing it. I'll probably speak to G about it, but give me a slap if I forget. And I think I've not done my time card for the last model I've done. So I'm in trouble for that as well. I do well at this. I'm always in trouble for forgetting something. It's great. Cool. Yeah, I think that's come together nicely. I'm happy with that. There's a couple of white spots I'm just going to darken out on the edge of the trouser. The good thing is, because it's right at the bottom edge, I can feed it in with this. And it just looks like a highlight. On the back of this one, same. That's cool. Nothing on the front. Cool. Happy with that. So I'm going to grab some Known Oil while I remember, because it's all about when I remember, because I've just looked at the shoes and remembered that I said I was going to just quickly wash over the boots. No worries. Yeah, I think I'm alright on Facebook. It was just YouTube that I wasn't, when I'm streaming live to, I can't see the chat for coming up on this feed. There's obviously something I need to link in on OBS. So I'm going to be really haphazard here. This is just because I brought it right up really bright. So I'll just grab some Knoll oil and we're just chucking it over. So the light spots will stay light, the dark spots will get darker. That'll give me a better contrast than it currently has, because the grey is quite light. And I'll make sure this is just a straight lick, no water. Always going to water it down, but the grey is bright. Says, so we're doing the shuffle at the minute, as you can see. Hopefully you're not prone to seasickness based on visual input. If you are, grab a bucket or head for your bathroom now. Just getting any excess off so I don't get no, or at least try not to get any pools of nastiness. Seems to be alright. Known oil done. Next. So coming back up to the weapon system. So I'm going to give my brush a quick clean because we've been in some black and we're about to go to white. We've been in some browns, so it's all coming out. I use a sponge for this. A lot of people use various methods. Wipe on tissue. I quite like a really wet palette sponge because it gives me a lot of controllability. So I'm going to reactivate the white. Then make sure it's nice and tin, not like me, the opposite of me in fact. And we're going to... Oh, Death in Jest, hello, welcome aboard. You've come in at an opportune moment. I'm about to screw up the white on the weapon system. So as I say that, I've just realised I'm at the wrong angle. So I'm just trying to give it a... Yes, I apologise if this is not your cup of tea when it comes to highlight methods, guys. It is very sort of sci-fi. I wasn't able to do it until we started doing these videos, and since then I've been able to do it. I generally do, mainly because it picks up on camera, partially because it does give me the effect I'm kind of looking for as well. So just gonna sort of whiten down the top areas. I've already got a grey on there as well. Let's go over the magazine, breech, grip. Some metal grip we've gone for on this one. Top of this magazine and the angle. Just trying to get that back edge without... I'm not even going to do it with that. I'm going to come back to it in a sec. because I need a bit more white, and the brush didn't have quite the point I wanted. In the past, I would have just cracked on and stuck it all over his t-shirt and been really annoyed at myself that I just didn't take this moment that I'm doing now just to re-zero the brush, set the palette again, pull a little bit of excess off so I can actually control what I'm meant to be doing, and then have too much on the brush and completely trash it anyway. So there's that bit and that bit back there. And a bit of, yeah. So I'm just angling some areas. Show that bit on the mag. Talking to myself now, I think. And then switch sides. So a bit at the top, bit on the top of the eyesight, a quick drag down the barrel, quick drag down the body, straight top to bottom on those sections, and the beginning of the rifle. I'll have one little bit just on the bottom section, then back to the top where we feathered before. Just going to do, he says, in shot now, just about to do auto shot. Now how much of that was out of shot? That's the funny question. Yeah, I like the realistic paint styles as well. It gives it almost a natural sheen that I can't get with metals. I've tried. It's really annoying. But now when you look at the gun, it's a little overly white, that one. So I'm going to mute that back with... So I've done this before, where I've gone a little too far. And the easy answer is take some ink and go back over it. So we'll do that with a bit of normal oil. The good point being, we've now got all the high spots. Coming back to those shades though. Breathe. Come on, Gareth. Steady hand. Steady hand. So I just want a little bit of white showing to sort of give a reflective edge. Let's have a look. Almost mirror. I just need to pull it down the opposite way. Somebody wanted mirror shades. I don't know how to do mirror shades, so we're kind of just winging it at this point, guys. Oh, nearly ended up in his cap and his nose. I wouldn't have been so bad about the nose, to be honest. That's about as good as I can get when it comes to mirror shades, guys. I'll tidy up a little bit again with an ink. I have to paint a miniature version of my own face in each lens. Well, mostly in shot. Now and again I'm in shot, not very often. So I'm happy with the trousers. The shoes are muted back nicely, but I want a bit of that colour back. So I'm going to go back in with the grey. But this time I'm going to be a bit neater with it. So I watered it right down. Half of this is me chasing myself. We're about an hour and 45. And we're just going to do a thin layer this time. So last time I went in a bit too heavy-handed with the colour. I hadn't thinned it down enough, and therefore I basically just batch painted across the whole thing grey. So it came out looking like that. And I want some light source to them, which they've kept. So now I can see where I should paint without doing too much. And hopefully it'll just register nicely. I can take longer to do things, to blend and such, but I am aware, as Jim will no doubt reinforce, that we're on the clock. We're always on the clock, because we have so long to do so much. So if I spend too long on things, then I'll never get anything done. As a quick alternate example, this is like 12-13 hours of work that I'm doing for my mate Steve. So It's getting there slowly but surely. Totally not modern. Sentry from the Marvel Universe. Really happy with that. Really proud of that one. Shouldn't be showing that, but I don't care. In fact, Steve's probably still on here. He's probably now jumping around because he just seen his model on a podcast and is hopefully, I think that's the first proper decent look he's had at it as well. So there are some areas here in the grey that I just want to do a bit more on. Oh, that was too much on the brush, so just lick it, pull it. A little bit of work where the laces would be, and I think the boots are done. Just a bit more in that gap. There we go. Yeah, so the gun is really bright now against the others. As you can see, it's almost a mirror white, which is not what I wanted as a finish. So, back to the null oil. Yeah, there's Steve. Maverick always takes place post-night. Really? That makes it modern. In fact, that's probably true then. Slow and steady works for you. Yeah, agreed. You say don't worry about the game, but it's one of them where you could get it to, up to a point where you're happy enough to release it. But there's kind of a challenge to this one as well. And if you met G, you'll know she's quite willing to kill me. And she has lots of guns. And I visit them, so she could do it while I'm sleeping there. Cool. G's scary. Dawn's lovely. G's scary. Lovely, but scary. Right, so I'm just going to go back over this with... I've just got a really watered down null oil. I'm just going to chuck this on. So this will, again, darken down the recesses, but hopefully it'll just draw back that white just a little bit. So it's not as quite as shocking, he says. This one's definitely not going to be done in 2 hours. I've still got the skin to finish and stuff. Still got the shirt to do. And we're at 10 minutes to go, roughly. So I've gone over the whites. We'll let that dull down. I'll have a look at it and then decide if it needs a second layer. With null oil, I'm definitely one for less is more sometimes. We'll do the shades as well, just to bring an edge to it. So I've gone to the high point of the shade and left the low point alone. So it looks like there's some reflection thing going on up there. When I say thing, I do mean thing. While I've got the white, I'm just going to chuck a little bit into the Mornfang brown. I'm just going to do a quick edge highlight on the wooden stock. I could try and grain it. I do find I chase myself when it comes to grain in the woods. To the point where I try and leave it alone now. He says, looking at it and thinking, I'll just do a couple of little ones at the end. So something really subtle actually. I'll just do a couple of bits here and there. Seasick yet? I'm moving around quite a bit. This is not me rushing, this is just how I paint when I'm in a comfortable area. Cool. So, happy with the boots. They've got that offset sort of grey black. Trousers, they've got a lovely sort of broken pattern to them. The weapon system is already dulled down now. So it's got that, what looks like a bit of a sheen. Has have the shades. Happy with the hair. Happy with the cap. And it having some transition in colour. So that needs skin and t-shirt. I'm going to do the skin first just because the t-shirt's the highest point. So for that, we've already got some... Oh no, it's gone dead. I've used it all. So I'm going to chuck back some Bugmans on the palette. Straight to water. How are we doing on the... Wow, I'm well far behind. For weapons, I sometimes wash with a blue. Yeah, I do like that as well. I do use the Drakenhof for that, with a blue sort of sheen to it. Let me just check if there's any other chats. Nope. Had to go up then because I sort of lost track of where we were on the chat. Oh, that's what I forgot to do with the skin. I haven't done the Reichland wash. I do this every time. I should be learning this process by now, really. As in, I forget the same things every time. So a bit of Rackham Flesh Shade. Yeah, really thin, Jim. So just chucking it in the Reichland. Quite heavy with this initially. Going to push it, get the excess into the recesses. And the fingers, flip it. Wary of that, if I had too much there now, it'd be rolling around somewhere. So hopefully I don't look back up and find that he's got Reichland flesh running from his forearm to his chin and ruining the blue. Cool. Then just going to pull off. So I've dabbed it a bit in my mouth. Just going to pull off the excess from the outer part of the arm to give me a visual for the shading. And that's that arm done. Fingers, knees and toes, Cool, so I've got a good level of pigment in there. Again, dab in the mouth. Just going to drag the tip off the fingers. That sounded so wrong in so many ways. Same with this arm. No comments, please. I don't want to get banned. A good amount. Got excess water. A good amount into the recess, as we always do. I can see there's a bit just on the fingers I'd missed. Come back around. Back of the thumb. Up the forearm. More in the recess again. Sweet. Look at the colour contrast now just between the forearms and the face. They've really darkened down. We're going to come back to the Bugmans just to bring them back initially and then do a mix with probably Cadian flesh tone just to bring it that final sort of layer. Got to be wary of the shades here. Not so much the sideburns because they're looking good. Rock solid. Elvis, rock solid. I wonder if he does karaoke nights, this dude. I can guarantee I know what his favourite artist is. Be careful around the nose. And pull the excess from the neck at the front so I don't forget. Push it around over the ear, in the ear. Back of the neck. I used to hate getting sunburnt there. Being a fair-skinned, freckly person, being in hot weather environments and not having the correct headdress was definitely a mistake I never made twice. Well, possibly twice. Cool. So he's darkened down nicely. I could probably leave him at that, to be honest, but not on his ear I can't. Not unless he's wearing a little stud earring. There we go. So the shades pop a lot more now, as you can see. So we're definitely going to do a highlight on him. He's already got a lot of highlight features. When you look at his nose and his lips, I've dragged it completely away from his lips to pale them up. Hopefully you can pick that up. So he's coming along nicely. Make me an all-American redneck. Yeehaw. I think, G tried that with the horse ranch thing to get me over there. Yeah, I put Not for Kids on when I posted some other stuff. Because I've got my own little page now. It's called The Average Miniature Painter. Just because I am. Average guy, takes his time on some, rushes through others. Just does the best he can with what he's got. Cheers, dude. Thanks for saying. It's looking good. So, loaded the brush back up with a bit of Bugmans. I'm just going to keep it in the areas that I can see are catching light. Just going to run the forearm. Yeah, I just looked up to make sure I was in shot. Kind of late, but it was, so not an issue. Down his pinky. I'm just going to move it to the back of the knuckles here, so I've got a bit more control. Oh look, he's got his trigger finger. There's his safety. Got to make sure that stands out. And just a little bit down each finger, which I'm happy with. Keeping it really thin. I'm just going to feather it up towards the gap that darkens out. So you can kind of see where it is initially. And then I'm going to damp it down. Take off some of the excess with water. Say water. It's spit. And there I've got a bit of a transition there. Let's thin this a little bit more. I think we've lost Jim. He's gone into crazy zone. He's in crazy time right now. So thinned it down with even more water. And all I'm doing here is, as we said before, I don't want straight lines. So I'm just pulling small lines here and there to break up anything that's straight. It's so thin that it should be subtle. Should be. Because I had it up here on the elbow, because I'd done a straight line pull. Now feathered it up into the elbow area to make it a little less pronounced. And I just want to pull a little bit under there. So that's that done. That part of the arm is got a highlight. So hopefully, if I turn it to the side there, you can see it's very faint. Then as it catches the light and back, you can see it's got a highlight to it. And it's not quite straight. Which is all I'm after really. On this side, I'm definitely going to have to go black. So, if you look inside his forearm on his left arm, so right as you look at it, there's a line here and then there's a gap. That gap needs to be black. So, do I do it with a Baden or do I do it with Nuln? I'm going to do it with Nuln because I've already got a dark skin layer on there, so the Nuln should sit in there okay. So that's not part of his arm, that's one of these where there was a gap but the metals filled it. Spectre's not actually too bad for this, I don't get this very often on the 1, 2, 3, 4, this is the 5th one I've done from them. So I'm just going to place this into the gap, Nuln oil, drop it at the top, hopefully we can see this on camera because I'm kind of concentrating. Move it about, and then literally I put enough in that if I just tip it down, it should start to move, he says. It has begun to move down. Let's give it a little hand. Touch in. Just needs a little bit more. That should darken it down enough with my highlight that I'm about to do for it not to be a problem. Cool. Any excess now, I'll just drag off the inside of the forearm and eat, because that's how I roll. You can never have too much paint in your system, apparently. It's like a cup of tea, it's all you ever need. So while that dries up, I'm going to jump up to the main features to make sure I've not got too much on the brush rather than start on the nose, which I was about to. Just going to touch the bottom of his ear, top of his ear, catch the edge, the lobe, and up. His cheek's already got some here. I can tidy up the sides now if I'm not happy with them. The nose, I'm going to leave the gap, so I've got a black section, or a black section, a dark section, a shadow at the edge of the nose rather than paint over that. Leave another gap for the next cheekbone. Come across that one. Again, tidy up towards the sides. Cool. Then got the high points done. Are the cheeks, the nose. Just gonna do a couple of dots gently on the chin. That sounded really loud. Hope it wasn't. Then come up to the side of the mouth. Same on the other side. Wary to keep what shadow I can. Cool. Then chuck a bit of water together. So it's literally just water gone on my brush now. I'm going to move that around. So I've thinned it out with the water as I'm using it. And pull it away to the bottom of the cheeks to dull what is quite a dark brown. Not enough paint. Let's go back for a bit more paint. So the water's still there, so this will take the edge off, lighten it up a bit. I'm happy that underside of the chin is going to be pretty dark. It's like just a bit on his neck at the front that I can get to and do. On the corduroy trousers. Oh dear. I've done my best for mirror shades, that's about it today. The white-red checkers on the we need to have like me and Marty need to have an arm wrestle or something on that one and find out which poor bugger's going to end up doing it. I'm pretty sure it's Marty because he started to set the tone of silly colours before I did. We could have a football jersey off. So I'm leaving some areas here dark towards the bottom to give him a level of unshaven look. So if we look at it now, you can see there's almost a shadow. So that's where I thinned it out so much so that it kept that. Because he had sideys, I figured having a 5 o'clock shadow would be quite nice. And then we're just going to dull down the back of his neck a bit as well. Yeah, I've done the back of that. So just make sure it's even across. Cool. So that leaves the forearm and the fingers on this side. So back to the fingers. I'm going to go in on the fingertips. Make sure I've not got nothing. So I'm just going to pull the lines again, make sure there's nothing between it. Load up the brush with a bit of watered down paint again. On the tip of the thumb, down to the pad of the hand. Then I've got a clear visual now. Now I put that black section in of shade running towards a t-shirt. I've got a real clear visual of where I need to colour. Again, I just dabbed it with my tongue to thin this down so that it's not as uniform as a single sweep of the brush. Yeah, looks good. So just the t-shirt left, essentially. It's actually going to be the toughest thing to pick a colour for. Well, I need to have a look what I've got. So I want like a bluey green, essentially. Essentially, it's definitely one of the things I say the most. Oh, look, bluey green. Sotek's a bluey green, look. It's almost a match. So, layer Sotek green. Let's find out how that goes on. Newcastle shirt, perhaps. That would be easier than what bloody Jim wants me to do. He wants a checkered... I think it's an Italian team. I can't remember which one. In fact, if you just look at the stuff Jim's made, and it does look absolutely awesome, by the way. Jim, love you, Jim. Obviously, by me saying this is me just trying to buy credit to not have to do what you did. He's done a digital one as part of the Transit Games characters. I'll have a look what models I've got. I'm pretty sure I've got one that'll have a suitable style jersey. And maybe have a go at it. That would definitely be a longer than 2-hour session if I'm having to do a checked shirt. So, thinned it down, got it nice and thin. Obviously I've got visual references already. So I'm just going to jump in and smash out most of the main areas that have got light. Where to try and keep away from the shadow stuff. Because the contrast has done its work for me to give me a visual reference. It's one thing I like about it. I know Steve's the same. He's finding that for visual references it's actually very good. If you're not very natural when it comes to doing your lighting, I'm not a natural. I don't have that sort of inbuilt visual ability to identify what should be lit and what shouldn't be on miniatures. Contrast helps me with that, and you can do it in a colour that's going to match what you're eventually going to paint it as. He did exactly zero research on the different style shirts. Well, I thought you were the historian of the group, Jim. those flip-flops I think you'll find are historically correct. If you go to Spain and search any images of Brits abroad, you'll find those cheap, nasty blue flip-flops on most of us, because that's how we roll when we're abroad. So coming up to the shoulders, they'll be pretty much blocked out blue with small gaps due to the fact it's the high point. So this is going to have a large, I've got a large area of shading there. And then I'm just going to do a thinner layer up the sort of the point of the shoulder to the neckline. Careful not to go too far. Back of the sleeve here is a nice gap, but this area should be lighter. Keep the darkness in that section. Lighten up this bit. And that's that side done. So check here, got a dark spot there that shouldn't be. Got some nice colours running through that area. %, Jim. Oh dear Lord. What do you mean select it for me? I could show you the selection of miniatures at the end of this one. If you could even say, well, we could do a poll or something and see which one you want me to paint next. I'm willing to bend on some things. I do like a level of realism. That's why they've got the blue flip-flops on. But I want no complicated, I say complicated, Jim's already done one complicated top, but there's no putting the Gryffindor symbol on t-shirts going to be happening, let's put it that way. That's one thing those models do have on them already though. That's something I'm going to have to try and paint next time I'm over with Dawn and Gianna, which I'm sure Dawn will be really happy with. Maybe not when she sees the final result, but she likes the idea of having the symbols on them. How cruel do you want to be? Rainbow stripes. In which direction? Laterally or vertically? So at the moment, because of what we did before, I have actually got some shadow where I want it to be, where we sort of built up the chest. So now, if I go from there up, try and define that just a little bit more by staying away from what we put on. And it should help me out a little bit. Rather than try and do too heavy, I'm just going to keep going with layers. And then the clavicles and the collarbone, that'll be a real high point. So across the front of the shoulders, essentially, up towards the neck, I want quite a strong colour in. Then I want a darker area where the sort of the dip to your belly would be, and then a lighter area where your stomach would potentially push out and give you the catch the light. Unless the dude's got a six-pack, that is. In which case, oh well, it must be nice. I think there was a time, many years ago. Just not cruel, just to offer character building. It's not cruelty, it's not bullying, it's character building. You know what? I may have heard that in the military a number of times. I've never said it. Promise? So, see here, I've just where the gun is just a little untidy. I need to get in there without touching the stock too much. So another layer on where the chest would be. The line where I started is solid at the top, so I'm just going to get rid of that because I want the shape without the start point to show that I actually drew it. I drew abs on that other model and I'd never really done it before, and I was surprised at how easy it was. If you just take your time and build up the layers, it sort of naturally came together, which is really cool. And then across the shoulders again, because I want that as a really clean colour. So in underneath the arm, getting close to the point where I'll start looking now around the model for other things I just need to finally finish off before we call it for today. How are we doing for time? We're about 10 minutes over the 2-hour point for today, so That's pretty good for me. Bear in mind all the setup I do beforehand. Hey, if I didn't pick the colours before I even started, I'd be screwed. At some point, I'm going to drop one of these or paint something right at the end that I shouldn't. You're just going to see me melt down on screen. Which, don't get me wrong, that will be entertaining for you. It may take me a while to get off. Cool. So, yeah, we're happy with that. What I'm going to do is just finish off the chest piece here. This section where his stomach is, I just want that a little bit darker. Just at the top. Again, maybe going too far, but you know how I am now. So I'm going to grab just a dab of black. Say a dab, I mean literally almost nothing. Chuck that in one area of the blue. Get some water on. Mix it so it's just a little bit darker, without carrying too much pigment. There we go. And then this area here where it's bright, I'm just going to come back in and dull it down like so. Same for the center of the chest. Down by the weapon stock. This is coming back to giving the chest a bit of shape. Down by the arm, where we blackened it out as well with the non-all earlier by the weapon system. I'm going to come in there with this. I'm going to thicken it up a bit to take the edge off this. So again, we talk about straight lines. I talk about straight lines. So now I'm just using the tip of the brush to feather that in towards the arm. What it should give us is a darkness to do with the colour of the top rather than a really thick shadow. There we go. Does that make sense, guys? So now you've got that. You see a darkness underneath where I've done the chest lines and a darkness towards the rib cage on that side. Same here at the top. That's going to be sort of dark. Just coming out the arm here, around the stock. I want it to darken down as it comes back in under his chin a bit. Yes, I know I'm probably going too far. You can never go too far. You can always chase it. Always chase it. And then the lower part of his back, where it goes in. Just going to feather along there. So that should give that sort of curve of the lower back that we've got. Just from the armpit, just a little bit up into the armpit on the opposite side. Same on this one. And he's got a bit of a hunchback going on. That's quite interesting. There's a light spot here on the collar, so I'm just going to darken it down with this. And I think it's time to do the final look. So let's have a final look. So looking at the shoes, I'm happy with the shoes and where they're at. They're not overly, I don't want them to be the centerpiece, so they're not going to be too bright. The trousers actually have come out really nice. I really do like that base black, oh my, brown with the overlay of brown. The white that was too bright on the gun is now dulled down with the known oil, so you can see it's almost like a grey, which is really nice. Happy with the buttstock. The skin on the left and right arm, I am good, not quite good enough with. So just on the underside of his left arm, as it would be his arm, it's a straight line. So again, I'm just going to put some water on the palette. Let's just load that up, clean that a sec. Try again. There we go. So I'm just going to load up a little bit. So on the other side of his arm here, where I've just dragged the paintbrush, and you might not even be able to see it, it's crazy. You can just see that straight sort of line of bright dots. So all I'm going to do is just break that up with little striations so it's uneven, and that's all I'm looking for. And then take the excess off with my mouth, bring it up and drag it up this side so I've got a smooth finish here as well. Make sense? Probably not. Doesn't to me either. Cool. And that was that repair. So t-shirt I'm really happy with. I've got a little bit of a light spot where I don't want one. That's just here on the shoulder. I've got sort of you can see one dot there and one dot there. In fact, the camera's actually picking that up. Again, back to this camera is just what I need really. So I'll take the dull one because that's towards where the armpit would be. Let's go over those 2 spots. Same for this area here, because let's be honest, it'll be a dusty environment. There's not going to be any really clean colours. The tip of the shirt at the bottom, I'm just going to feather from above it every so often with the darker one, and I'm just pushing it in essentially towards where the black line is that runs along the bottom. So there should be some shadow there, and it should be lighter towards the tip. Cool. A little bit there from the armpit, it's too much. Happy with that. So happy with the top. What about the collar? There's a little bit here and there on the collar. I'm going to tidy up with the same blue so that the neckline is correct. The good thing about this, that is a easy thing to do because it's an overhang, because it's a higher point than the skin. So all I need to do is run the edge of the brush sideways across it, being aware not to let the tip of the brush dip into the skin. Very careful around this area. A little bit more on the brush to finish off. Bring that right up to the collar. A little bit too far, so go back into the flesh. And again, the joys of a wet palette is you can always come back to the previous colour, bring it back down as well. Cool. Just make sure you got enough on though to hide the colour that you've gone with. So happy with that. Just going to grab a bit of the grey. So this is the grey we used on the gun. So the black's too flat for the hair to be hair. So essentially it's similar to just a dab dry brush. So I'm just stippling a little bit onto whatever texture's there to work with. And then on the underside of it as well. So we'll change the angle. And that should break it up. It's got to show a little grey in these sides. Can't have him too looking good. It's just for men. Hair colouring is not up to scratch. And I think I've chased this enough. So back of the neck just needs a little more of the skin colour. What I'm going to do to make it a bit easier, to put a bit more on, so it will be lighter. And it is a better pigment strength. Oh, got a bit of white behind his ear there. That was close, could have missed that. That would have been annoying for me. Because it'll be an exposed area anyway. It's not an issue it being a little bit lighter, because it should be. He says. That's my excuse anyway. Cool. And then we've got shades on, face on, a bit of 5 o'clock shadow. And we're there. I'm happy with the cap. Do I want to do a... No, I'm happy with that. Cool. So, final miniature. We have done it in 2 hours 20. So for me, that's not too bad. I thought it'd be quite a simple one because of his flat colours. But we tried some new colours today. I screwed up the cap, screwed up the boots. Was messy in loads of different places. Pretty much an average day for me. And it's just a case of repairing it, and it just shows that you can pretty much repair whatever you need to. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks very much for tuning in, guys. Yes, I use GW brushes. They're Citadel ones. So at the moment I've got a medium shade that I do big blanket work on. The one I've used for most of the trousers and stuff today has been a medium layer. And for all the smaller work, I only go down to what isn't a GW brush. This is a Expo Tools Pure Sable 40. I get a nice tip on them. They're cheaper. I like these for the smaller stuff. The bristle length's a bit shorter, so it works out for me really nice. Cheers for the comments, guys. Looks good. Thank you very much. Great stream. Thank you. Again, you know, I'm always trying to improve. We're always trying to get the time down. So, final look around the model. Really happy with how he's come out. That makes it up to 5 that I've done out of my 13. So I'm hoping to do another one this weekend. I'll speak to the guys and schedule that in, and we'll go from there. But hope you've enjoyed it. I really appreciate you guys coming in. It's always nice to have people to chat to and bring up the information and be interactive, because, you know, it's a long 2 hours, 20 minutes when you're talking to yourself. Pulled it out the bag. yeah. The problem is I keep going into the bag and then have to bring it back. So I'll get a couple of pictures up. We'll post them up tomorrow or the day after. And thanks for tuning in. So as I leave you for this evening, have a great night. And here's a word from our sponsors at Black Site Studios. They do some ridiculously good scenery pretty much for any sort of game that you play. Have a mooch through their website, because they're great supporters of us. And I'll catch you at the weekend, hopefully. Have a good one.
Are you looking to become a Tier 1 operator in the gaming world? Elevate your games with Black Site Studio Terrain.